Booker, are you afraid of God?
No. But I'm afraid of you.
Are you going to just sit there?
As compared to what? Standing?
Not standing. Rowing.
Rowing? Hadn't planned on it.
So you expect me to shoulder the burden?
No, but I do expect you to do all the rowing.
And why is that?
Coming here was your idea.
My idea?
I've made it very clear that I don't believe in the exercise.
The rowing?
No. Imagine that's wonderful exercise.
Then what?
The entire thought experiment.
Excuse me. How much longer?
One goes into an experiment knowing one could fail.
But one does not undertake an experiment knowing one has failed.
Can we get back to the rowing?
I suggest you do, or we're never going to get there.
No, I mean I'd greatly appreciate it if you would assist.
Perhaps you should ask him. I imagine he has a greater interest in getting there than I do.
I suppose he does. There's no point in asking.
Why not?
Because he doesn't row.
He doesn't row?
No, he doesn't row.
Ah, I see what you mean. We've arrived. He's not moving.
He will, eventually.
I suppose he does. Shall we tell him when we'll be returning?
With that chain gang?
It might give him some comfort.
Somebody meeting me here?
I'd certainly hope so.
It does seem like a dreadful place to be stranded.
Like Bioshock and Bioshock 2, Bioshock Infinite is a first-person shooter with role-playing elements. In contrast to the limited spaces of Rapture in previous Bioshock games, the expanded environment of Columbia provides for more dynamic combat challenges in Infinite. As Booker, the player must fight their way through Columbia using weapons and a variety of tools in order to complete objectives. The player may carry only 2 weapons at a time, and can collect other weapons and ammunition either from defeating enemies or from random locations around the city. In addition to his health, Booker is also equipped with a shield. When damaged, the shield regenerates after a few seconds, while health can be replenished with medical kits or food. Should Booker die, the player revives in a safe area but loses a slight amount of money. Booker regains partial health and is granted additional ammunition, while local enemies are also partially healed. Players can still recover from death should they lose all their money. Booker gains powers and abilities through Vigors, Gears, and Infusions, all scattered around Columbia. Vigors, the equivalent of Bioshock's plasmid, grant activated powers such as creating shockwaves, releasing bolts of electricity, and machine and human possession. Vigors require Salt, the equivalent of magic points or Bioshock's Eve, for powering their abilities. Salts can be found throughout Columbia and are also granted upon death. Wearing Gears grant passive abilities that can improve the player's strength or damage resistance, similar in function to Bioshock's tonics. Each piece of gear attaches to one of 4 specific slots: hats, shirts, boots, and pants. Only one piece of gear can be affixed to a slot at a time. Any extra gear stored in the player's inventory. Infusions grant the ability to permanently boost the player's health, salts, or shield meter by 1 stat. They also fully restore whatever is being boosted. At certain points throughout the story, the player will be forced to make a choice in order to continue, each choice making minor changes on the story. For example, at the raffle at the start of the game, Booker wins and the raffle is revealed to be a front for a public stoning of an interracial couple. As a reward for winning the raffle, Booker is given the very first throw, and the player is given a choice to throw at the couple or at the announcer. If the player chooses the latter option, the couple appears later to thank him for sparing them. But if the player chooses the former option, the announcer congratulates him later in the game. Booker can traverse Columbia but on foot and by riding the Skyline. The Skyline is a roller coaster-like rail-based system, originally designed for moving cargo around Columbia, but later used for personal transport. Whereupon the player activates a wrist-mounted tool called the Skyhook, that Booker and enemies wear to jump and hang onto the self-powered tracks. The player can jump onto and off of and between Skyline tracks at any time, and may face enemies that use the systems to attack. The player can use one-handed weapons in Booker's free hand while using the Skyline. Freedom of movement along the Skyline allows for several varieties of combat, including flanking, cover, and area of effect attacks through creative uses of the system. Booker can also drive off from the skyline to strike enemies with his skyhook. While on the ground, he can melee and execute enemies with it. Once reunited with Elizabeth, the player must work with her to escape Columbia. The player does not directly control Elizabeth, but instead she reacts to the player in the current situation. Unlike Bioshock, where the player is tasked with protecting a little sister while escorting her, Elizabeth requires no protection and can take care of herself in combat. While the player is in battle, Elizabeth scavenges the area for supplies such as ammunition, medical kits, salt, and other items, and tosses them to Booker as needed. She can also use her tier opening powers to aid the player, bringing in weapons, health, salts, environmental features such as cover or ledge for higher ground, and automated defense units. Only one tier can be opened at a time, making the player decide between the available options to suit the battle. Elizabeth also has the ability to pick locks using her hairpin. However, she requires one-use lockpicks, found all over Columbia, to open doors or safes storing valuables or hidden items. While exploring Columbia, the player and Elizabeth can find various useful items such as cash, food, medical kits, ammunition, and salts. Vending machines present throughout Columbia can be used to buy supplies and powerful upgrades for weapons and vigors. Optional side missions are also available, where the player must unlock safes or decode hidden ciphers. Completing them rewards Booker with a handful of supplies, voxophones, and infusion upgrades. As the player progresses through the city, he is opposed by various enemies, classified into 3 types: standard enemies, heavy hitters, and basic security automata. Standard enemies are regular foes consisting of several different human forces representing the Founders and the Vox Populi. Heavy hitters are more formidable enemies, aligned with the Founders, who act as mini bosses throughout the game, demanding new tactics from the player. They consist of the vigor-powered fireman and zealot of the lady, the heavily armored beast, the powerful robotic-like monster handyman, the crank gun-wielding automaton motorized patriot, and the enemy-detecting boys of silence. The Vox Populi also possess their own versions of the fireman, beast, and motorized patriot. Basic security automata are armed machines scattered throughout Columbia that act as a security defense system for the city, consisting of the fixed gun and rocket automatons and the flying mosquito. After completing the story mode on easy, normal, or hard difficulties, a 1999 mode is unlocked, where the challenge of the game is significantly increased. Enemies are much tougher, the player's navigational aid and aim assist is removed, and resource management is much more crucial to survival. Also, the difficulty of the game cannot be changed while playing. Additionally, in this mode, reviving after dying uses up more money. Should Booker die with less than $100, the game ends, and the player is sent back to the main menu and has to resume from their last autosave prior to the section where they died.
Excuse me, where am I?
Heaven, friend. Or as close as we'll see till Judgment Day.
Best keep such questions to myself, unless I want to be made.
And every year, on this day of days, we recommit ourselves to our city and to our prophet, Father Comstock. We recommit through sacrifice and the giving of thanks, and by submerging ourselves in the sweet waters of baptism. And lo, if the prophet has struck down, Is it someone new? Someone from the Southern below, newly come to Columbia to be washed clean before our prophet, our founders, and our Lord?
I just need passage into the city.
Passage to the city. Brother, the only way to Columbia is through rebirth in the sweet waters of baptism. Will you be cleansed, brother?
Let's end this and turn around and get back on our rocket. Might as well get it over with.
Come and be cleansed.
Hey.
I baptize you in the name of our prophet, in the name of our founders, and the name of our Lord. And make him born in the bosom of Columbia. I don't know, brothers and sisters, but this one doesn't look clean to me.
Bring us the girl and wipe away the debt!
What do you want?
We had a deal to it! Open this door right now!
That idiot priest needs to learn the difference between baptizing a man and drowning one.
Granted a sword of gold, so that
I need to find a landmark and figure out where the hell I am.
Our prophet fills our lungs with water, so they may better love the air.
He who crossed the Delaware, with flaming sword and wings of angels.
Rebel against...
Just because the city flies don't mean it ain't got its fair share of fools. All right. Still gotta go.
Like all the rest.
Picking the right event to attend on, David.
Columbia Raffle and Fair. Huh.
He's strong in the sword, but a bit weak at the keys. That kind of problem.
Yeah, that's where they said I'd find her.
Telegram, Mr. DeWitt.
Huh.
Telegram for you, sir.
DeWitt, stop. Do not alert Comstock to your presence. Stop. Whatever you do, do not pick number 77. Stop. Lutess. What the?
Why, good day to you, sir.
Hello.
I agree.
His fingers now. Would you believe me? If I told you a man could hoist a one-ton...